Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slipper Camp. For our second workshop today, we are super lucky to have Travis here to talk to us about Zoom, which is probably something you have heard a little bit about recently. And Travis from IT and Academic Technology is probably our foremost Zoom expert on campus, so we're really grateful for your time. We'll have 15 minutes at the end for questions, but for now, I'm going to turn it right over to Travis. Thanks, Travis.
Sounds good. Well, I'm glad that so many people are here because hopefully if I do my job well, that means that there'll be less problems as we go further down the road. I think Zoom is a really useful thing for everybody, from teaching classes to holding meetings to connecting with loved ones, whatever it may be during this time. It's very important, and it has so many different features that can get confusing, and it's a very user-friendly application. So what we're gonna do during this time is kind of like walk through some of the basic features that allow us to produce a better product, whatever that may be. Product is a class, a meeting, whatever you're trying to do, I think we can accomplish it through Zoom. So it's a good thing that you're all here, because that means you were able to click on a link and get into a Zoom call. And that's what most users are gonna have that experience of. They're gonna click on a link and they're gonna show up. But outside of that, when you're setting something up, that's what we're gonna kind of walk through right now. So I am going to share my screen. All right. Everyone can see this first slide of the PowerPoint, Zoom. That's all there is to it. This is kind of the framework for this overall week for the Slipper workshop. I just thought I'd put it in here. We'll kind of touch on a few of these things and how we can use Zoom as a tool to accomplish this AEC framework. Some Zoom features, these are just kind of the basic features of our license. This license is system-wide, so the University System of New Hampshire. We are all under one type of license for Zoom. So you might hear other people talk about like the basic free version that a family member can download, or a HIPAA compliant one for nurses and healthcare workers. We are operating under a specific license for the university system. So a couple of nice features about that is we have no time limits for meeting duration. And this kind of is important, especially if you're working with outside people or outside groups. If they're setting up a meeting and they're using the basic, they're gonna time out at about 40 minutes. So that's why our license is really nice. We can have a meeting for, as we're having a meeting right now, from 8:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. There's no time limit. For Zoom meeting size, we can go up to 300. For class, we recommend with IT and classroom technologies and academic technologies that really if you're planning to host a Zoom meeting over 50 participants, that just get in touch with us to kind of learn on how to manage the meeting. Because as you can see, with more than 50 people, it can get kind of chaotic and it can be hard to figure out what is happening. But we're happy to work with you and even be part of the meeting if you're working with something over 50. So there's a link right there. You just click on that, you fill out a quick form. It comes to myself or Brett Robinson, and we just will get in contact with you to discuss. Sorry about that. And so some things with the meeting is kind of what we're doing right now. This allows for both the host and the participants to share audio, video, and their screen. You can change all those settings as a host, but that's kind of a really distinct feature of a meeting, is that you can have two-way conversations. You can share video back and forth. You can share your screen back and forth, which is really nice when trying to make that personal connections. As a little bit, as a attendee or a participant, they have a little bit more control. But like I said, you can kind of change all of those features also in your settings, which we'll go over soon. Next that we have is a Zoom webinar. That's part of our license. There's no time limit again for a webinar. The size limit for the webinar is around 500 people. Same thing, if you're planning to do a webinar, you'd want to fill out that link. It allows panelists, so a panelist is the same, could be considered a host or something like that, to share video, audio, and screen, but the attendees cannot. So it'd be kind of like sitting in Silver Center in the Hanaway Theater, just a big room, people up on stage talking to an audience that won't communicate back. Some of the nice things about the webinar is it allows for limited interactions between panelists and attendees while creating a secure meeting that can be fully open to the public. This is a great way to host a public forum that you can send the link out to anybody and they can join, and you don't have to worry about what's all over the news. And what we've been talking about is Zoom bombing, is someone coming in that shouldn't necessarily be there and to disrupt the meeting. The nice thing about the webinar is anybody who's not a panelist will just show up and they're just somebody in the crowd. They will not have their voice heard. The only way that attendees are able to communicate to panelists is via a Q&A and chat option. So when you start to think about when you're setting up classes or setting up meetings or setting up events in the next year, 2 years, whenever, a webinar is a great tool. We've been using webinars for thesis presentations, large meetings in the environmental sciences, art kind of symposiums. We did the student showcase there. These are great ways to allow anybody to come, but to kind of control it in a little bit more of a way. Downloading Zoom. To download Zoom, you want the application. It's kind of important to have Zoom in 2 locations. You have the Zoom through the portal of the PSU, the My Plymouth homepage, but you also want that application on your device. The reason why this is important is this is how you can check for updates, and you have a few different features that you can find in that Zoom application. So all these slides I'll be able to share with you, so you don't need to write any of this down. You can also find it in the recording, but you want that application downloaded. All right, so to get onto your page, I'm gonna go here. All right, so we recommend, everyone kind of has different ideas, but we recommend accessing Zoom if you're setting up a meeting or you're joining a meeting. Just do it through the My Plymouth page. So if you haven't already done this, this is a great way to do it, and it allows you to kind of join the Zoom community of PSU. So you go to My Plymouth, you go to My Courses, and then on the right-hand side, you're gonna have your little Zoom icon. So you're gonna click on that, and that's gonna bring you to this confusing page. And I apologize that it's confusing, because you're gonna wanna click on join a meeting over here, or host a meeting, or do any of these things. Don't do it. Go up to this upper right corner into the sign in my account and click on that. And that's gonna bring you to either this page, your home page, or it's gonna bring you to another sign in page that looks like the same one that you'd sign in for My Plymouth. And you're going to sign in just with your normal credentials that you use to get into My Plymouth. It's gonna bring you to this profile page, and you're gonna have some of these, this information right here. It's kind of hidden with some of the new encryption and the new security features that Zoom is doing. Sorry, there's just a lot of chat. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, and Travis, I'll watch the chat.
Okay.
So don't worry about it. I'll interrupt you if there's something there that we want to get, but otherwise we can wait till after.
Perfect. All right, so a couple important things in this page right here is your meeting ID number. This is your personal meeting ID number and your personal meeting URL. Those don't change. Those are going to be the same for your account for your entire time when you're with under the PSU license. Now with the new security features, you have to show it to see it. The real reason for that is so someone else can't get your personal meeting ID and kind of Zoom bomb you or disrupt your personal meetings. A lot of this other stuff on the main page, you don't need to worry about. It kind of shows what we've talked about, that your meeting capacity is 300, your webinar is 500. All right, so now the kind of important stuff. How do you book your meeting? How do you schedule? How do you make a class? How do you make office hours? How do you create a unique event? So say we go over here to meetings. All right, so you have your upcoming meetings, you have previous meetings, you have personal meeting room and meeting templates. So say we want to schedule a new meeting. We're going to do a class. We're going to schedule a new meeting. We're going to change our topic. So test class. Description, can put in whatever you want. You don't need to put in anything. It's kind of just for you and for your attendees. We're going to have this class start next Monday. And because students love it, we're going to make it a 9 a.m. class, because that's when most people will join. The duration is going to be a long one. It's going to be a dude. It's going to be a lab. It's going to be 3 hours. So now we have our time set up. We're going to make it a reoccurring meeting, because I'm hoping that this is not a one-time class and we're going to have this go on for the whole semester. Hopefully we're in person and we don't have to do that, but it's always a good idea to kind of just have it reoccurring. So you're not doing it every week and sending out a new link. So reoccurring meeting. I'm going to change this reoccurrence because I don't want it happening every single day. It's going to be a weekly, and it's going to occur on Monday and Wednesday. All right. So you can see how I changed the reoccurrence to weekly from daily, and I changed the occurs on. I clicked Monday and Wednesday. So now this is going to occur every Monday and Wednesday. Going to occur at 9 a.m. and it's going to go for 3 hours. The duration doesn't matter as much. You can stop it, and before that, you can go on for longer than 3 hours. There's no, that it's not like a hard cutoff point. So don't get caught up by that. And for our end date, you can put it to wherever, but say we're going to do it for the summer. So we're going to go to the end of July. The last class would be July 29th.
And quick question, Travis, as we're going, is it secure to use a recurring meeting, or should people use a new link for each class? It seemed, you know, how do you balance security with helping students easily find where they're supposed to go?
So there's a couple ways of doing that, and we'll talk about it. You can have a password that's required, but that password is going to be the same password. So that kind of defeats the purpose if someone gets a hold of it. The best way that I have found to kind of help with that is setting up a waiting room, which we'll talk about. And that waiting room allows for, you can kind of think of it as like a room outside your physical classroom. So you have like the hallway, and then you have your classroom, and you have a bouncer at that door of that classroom that's going to let people in or not let people in. And you're going to be that bouncer. So that's what we found. I think for everyone's sanity and ease of use, and especially like it's a difficult time as is, to set up a reoccurring meeting is okay. And I think if you set it up with the security features of having the waiting room and stuff like that, that's just one link that a student needs to worry about for their Monday and Wednesday class. A lot of students, a lot of faculty, a lot of staff, we get hundreds of Zoom links, and trying to keep them all straight is tough enough. So if you had one every single, like for every single class that's happening twice a week for a whole semester, that's a lot of work on your part to set it up. And it's a lot of work on your attendees' parts to follow along with that. So I think there's other ways to combat the security by setting it up as even if you set up as reoccurring.
Travis,
so you can,
Travis, can I chime in real fast?
Go ahead, Jason.
One of the best ways to mitigate that too is not sharing your links on social media or other, broadcasting them on the general web. Really, for a class, the only place you should share your link is in your Moodle classroom or by email directly with the students. Doesn't mean they can't share the link with people outside the classroom, but as Travis talked about, that waiting room can help mitigate that.
Yeah. And if you're trying to do a meeting like I talked about earlier with a large public where you want to share, you want as many people that can come, we'll host a webinar for you. And that allows for you to send that link out via social media and not have to worry about security features as much. So you can require a meeting password. Really, if the meeting password's probably better for like a one-time meeting, because then it's unique. The meeting password's not going to change going on, but if you'd like to set it up, you can. Video, you can, I sometimes like to have my participant video off when they first come in, or you can have it on. I usually have it off just so that they don't come in and their video is already on and going. It's kind of a feature that it's personal preference, but we'll just keep it on. So audio, this part's important. Oh, I would recommend checking your telephone and computer audio. And this kind of goes to make your class or your meeting accessible to as many people as possible. So say there's somebody who wants to join your meeting or your class who doesn't have a good internet connection, they can still call in with a landline phone. If you have this option checked, this will, when you create the meeting, will create a number and the meeting ID, and they can call in with a rotary phone, a pay phone, whatever it is, they can call in. So if you have this telephone and computer audio check, that allows that to happen. So here's meeting options. So a couple of things you can have checked here. You can enable join before host. You can have mute participants upon entry. You can enable waiting room. You can allow only authenticated users to join. You can pre-assign breakout rooms, and you can record meeting automatically. We'll kind of go through all those. I check enable join before host for stuff that I do a lot of times, because if I'm running a little bit behind in a meeting, I want the person just to be able to join. But what I'd recommend for classes to really uncheck that, and you really want to check your enable waiting room. And this is what we were talking about. This is creating a room or a space outside of your meeting where people are first going to go when they're clicked on the link, and they're going to just be put in this space, and they will be there until you allow them to come in. You're that person at that door that's going to be like, okay, you can come into the class or come into the meeting now. And what's going to happen is you'll see their name on the side on your participants list. It'll say waiting room, and you'll see their name. And if it's someone you really don't recognize and you don't feel like they should be there, you don't need to bring them in. You can just leave them in that waiting room. And this is I think one of the best ways to combat a lot of Zoom bombing if your link goes public for some reason. If a student or if someone else shares a link with somebody that's trying to disrupt your meeting. You can also, if you know it's just going to be a class for PSU students or PSU faculty, you can have the authenticated users checked. And that would mean that only people with a plymouth.edu username can join that meeting, and they would sign into Zoom using the SSO. The problem with that is if they don't sign in using that SSO, if they sign in on another device, or if they're on a different something, if they're on their phone and they're not into their PSU email or PSU network, it's not going to allow them to join. And it can create a lot of frustration and headache on the side of the participants. And kind of what we're doing right now is trying to make this as easy as possible, as safe as possible, and secure as possible. And so that this waiting room feature really allows us to do that without having to do this other stuff.
I think you froze, Travis.
Question? My lights are kind of going in and out too. So
No, Travis, no.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good now. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird. My lights are flickering in my house. Wind is up. Who knows? So breakout room pre-assign. So a breakout room, a breakout room is creating smaller meetings within a larger meeting. So it's a way to do like smaller groups, to have individual discussions within a larger meeting. It's putting people in separate meetings where they can talk and other groups can happen at the same time. So say if you're hosting a meeting, you're creating a class where you already know that you want to do this and you know the participants that you want to put in, you can click breakout room pre-assign, and you'd click on create rooms. So here, you kind of would follow these instructions, and I'm going to click on create a room. I'm going to have a breakout breakout room 1, and I could add participants. I could say, I'm gonna put Jason in breakout room 1, and it comes up with a list of names. So there's Jason. In breakout room 2, I'm gonna go over here, I'll put Robin. And if they're part of the PSU, it will autofill. So I could put all these Robins. I could just do it by name, create my breakout rooms. So this is nice if you have a class and you know for that class or for that meeting that you're going to have these breakout rooms, that you're going to have breakout rooms, you can pre-assign it. You can do it in the meeting or you can do it prior to the meeting. So that's how you do it when you're setting it up. You just click save. In this case, I'm going to click cancel. And yeah, that's how that would happen. Now you could record meeting automatically. If you want it recorded, we have the ability when you record a meeting, you can record it on the locally to your computer or in the cloud. How we have it set up at PSU right now is if you record into the cloud, it gets brought into Zoom and then gets processed from Zoom to your Kaltura account. And it's a really smooth transition. It takes a little bit of time because it's processing. It takes maybe a few hours, but you can record your class and then it gets put right into your Kaltura account. And from Kaltura, you can bring it into your Moodle. You can share that link with the class other ways. And it's a nice feature. It's nice if, say, someone wasn't able to attend the meeting. It's just another way to make this as accessible to as many people as possible during this time. So I usually record my meetings. There's not a lot of harm in recording it to the cloud. You can always take it off if you don't want it, but record a meeting automatically. So say this is for this class. Now, the last thing is alternative hosts. We'll discuss hosts real quick. So when you set up a meeting, there's hosts and there's participants. Hosts have the ability to end the meeting for everybody, to remove participants, to stop people from sharing their screen, to do all these kind of features, kind of crowd control features. If you add an alternative host, so say I was going to add Robin as my alternative host, I'd put in Robin's email. Robin would be able to do a lot of those same things. So Robin could manage participants by muting people, unmuting people, by removing people from a meeting. It's nice to have an alternative host if for some reason you don't think you might be able to attend the meeting, because then the host can start the meeting. Or if you just want someone else who can kind of like be part of that meeting and help out. It's nice it's particularly good for large scale meetings.
Can we actually ask this question right now, because it's easy to answer? Are Zoom meetings that are recorded to the cloud automatically closed captioned by Zoom?
They're not automatically closed captioned by Zoom, I believe, and maybe if Jason's still here can chime in. I'm pretty sure they're automatically closed captioned in Kaltura.
That is correct. They don't get closed caption in Zoom. When they get transferred over to Kaltura, they get closed caption. Obviously, you need to check that caption because it's not always 100% accurate.
Yeah.
And just to make sure everybody understands, it's just because of our Plymouth State setup that when you have to choose record to the cloud, and that'll make it go to Kaltura, which will give you that closed captioning, which is this is a really great feature for us.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah, if it records to the cloud, it stays in Zoom Cloud where you can access the recording in your Zoom Cloud, in your Zoom profile for 14 days, but it transfers over to Kaltura in a matter of overnight.
Yeah. If by accident you record, say I checked record on local computer, it's just going to record to a drive on your computer. So mine records to my documents drive, so I could go there and then manually upload it to Kaltura if I wanted to do it that way, or send out, process it through my own devices. But how we have it set up with PSU, I just do it to the cloud. It goes right to Kaltura. A lot of that like messy work is something I don't need to worry about. So now I'm just going to click save. So here is my meeting. You can kind of go down and kind of see that you set it up correctly. We have our meeting ID. We have our invite link, all our features. If any of this looks wrong, you can edit this meeting at any point and you can change stuff. The nice thing about this is even if I were to edit only this meeting or all of them, it doesn't change that link. So if I send out that URL link to a class, even if I go in here and edit it, it's not going to necessarily change that link. But here's what you're going to send out. You can send out this invite link. You can just copy and paste this into an email. You can also go and copy this invitation. And a lot of this is stuff you don't need to worry about. But what I was talking about before, if there's someone's calling in on a telephone, a landline, or a cell phone, here's how they would do it. They could one tap dial if they are on a mobile phone like an Android or iPhone. And they would put in, you tap this number and it just will bring you in. But if say you're on a good old rotary phone, you dial this number, usually the 646 number, the New York based number. You're going to dial that. There's going to be someone on the other line, like an automated voice that says, place your meeting ID. You're going to put in your meeting ID, and then it's going to ask you for your password. You're going to put in your password, and then you're going to join the meeting. It's going to be like a listen, and it's going to be a audio only meeting for you, because you're not going to be able to see anything because you're on a phone. But it's a great way to be able to attend if you don't have access to internet, if you're if you don't have a computer. This is a great way to make this accessible to more people, especially in our neck of the woods up here where the house down the street doesn't have internet. So if I go back to my meetings, now my upcoming meetings, here is, you don't want to get scared, but we set up a reoccurring meeting. So you're going to see every single instance of that until it ends. So say Monday comes, Monday, May 18th comes, and I want to start it. I'm just going to go into my upcoming meetings. I'm going to go over here and click start. It's going to bring me right into that meeting. So say I created all these and I'm like, oh, I totally messed up. I don't want this. I haven't sent the link out to anybody. You can just delete it. You can delete the one meeting. So say on Monday, we have Memorial Day coming up, I believe. I think it's Monday, May 5th, 25th. So say we don't want to have class that day. I'm going to just cancel that one occurrence, but for this case, I'm going to delete all occurrences. So, that's your meetings. It's pretty easy to do. You can do it pretty quickly, and it's a great way to have a class or have a meeting with other people. Personal meeting room. So this meeting room with your unique meeting ID, your unique URL that doesn't change. I've been kind of thinking about this as you can have this as your like office. It's your space. It's yours. Do with what you want. And I send this out all the time. So say I want to have a quick meeting with somebody. I'm just going to tell them, join my like personal meeting room. I can just send them this link. I can come over here to my personal meeting room and I can click start meeting, and that's going to take me into my space. It's just like my office. You can have your office hours here. So you could post this one link to your students or to other faculty or staff and say every day from 9 a.m. Till noon, I'm going to be here. You can also set up a meeting. You can do it multiple ways, but this is just, it will never change. A couple things to remember when you're setting up meetings is you can only host one thing at a time. As many of us would love to be multitaskers and host 1,000 meetings at the same time, unfortunately, we can only do one at a time. So just remember that, especially if you're setting up meetings for other people and you're the host, when you try to set up another meeting at that exact same time, you both have those meetings going, one meeting is always going to be kicked off of line. So make sure as a host, you're only setting up one meeting at a time.
And we have 15 minutes left, Travis, just so you know.
Okay.
Take it back.
Sounds good. I'm just going to go through recordings real quick and settings, and then we'll do some questions. So recordings here, this is where your recordings are going to come. So you can see that you have cloud recordings and local recordings. These are all the recordings that I did for the cloud. So they're here in Zoom. Like Jason said, they're stored for 14 days. But if you see them here, they're going to also be uploaded to your Kaltura account. So if I went into my Kaltura account, I would see all of these recordings there as well. If you did a local recording, you could find it here. And if you do a local recording, this is where you're going to see where it's located in your location. So if you don't know where you saved it to, you can come here and find it. Settings. Here's some, you can go through these settings and kind of change what you want to be able to do in terms of if you want to add polling to your class, you could turn on polling, screen sharing. You can allow hosts and participants to share their screen. You can have it so that only that you can share or all participants can share. If you go through these settings, it's very user friendly that Zoom sets it up. It's just a toggle click. So you can just like click back and forth and change your settings. If you have any questions about specific settings on how we recommend at PSU you set it up, be happy to walk you through this. So why don't we do questions? I can probably answer a lot of stuff as we talk about a few more things as we get questions. Is that good, Robin?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think the way to do it is just to indicate, I have a question in the chat and I will call on you and ask you to unmute yourself and just ask it. So I'm going to start with MAS 1011, whoever you may be. Can you ask your question?
Hi, that's me, Maria Sanders.
Hey,
and
Maria.
I just had a quick one. If we save our recordings in the cloud and it's sent to Kaltura, how long can we expect to be able to access that through Kaltura?
Jason?
Unlimited.
There you go.
So we will have control over when that's deleted, or does the system, like PSU system, purge it every couple of years?
That does not get purged. We have unlimited storage with them, so you control when that gets deleted.
Okay, thank you.
A very quick one next from Becky, because I think it'll be fast. Is it secure to send out your personal meeting room link in your email signature?
I would probably say no. And the only reason with that, if you're sending that out to large outside groups, it gives it access to anybody. It's up to you, but I would probably recommend not doing that in your email signature. It'd be kind of like sending out, yeah, I would probably advise against that.
A couple of people are interested in this, and Kate asks, would you be able to walk us through how to use polling?
Sure. Don't know if I can do it outside of the meeting, but we will try. So pretty much what you would do is when you're creating a meeting, if you have in your settings, if you have polling set up, wherever that is. When you're setting up your meeting and you can create polls. So you can say a poll one could be, we have lunch at 1 o'clock. You can have like a yes checkbox and a no checkbox. And when you start your meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you know where you have your like icons, your audio mic icon, your video icon, your participant icon, all those icons, you're gonna have a little button that says polling. When you click on that button, you'll have your polls that you created. And all you would do is launch polls. So you could go to poll number 1 or motion number 1, whatever you call it, and click launch. And on everybody's screens, on all the participant screens, it will come up. That question will come up and they'll be able to click yes or no or whatever the options may be. And then you'll see those show up on your screen. You'll see like 10%.
Travis, I have a poll here. I just have a question for you before I launch it as an example because I need it later. If
I wouldn't launch it then.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So
No.
We can't show you an example right now. And if you need more help, Travis can help you. There's just a lot of people waiting, so we're going to keep covering some stuff. So let's go next to Eric. Do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you guys for doing this. How do you manage multiple students coming in for office hours in the private meeting room so you can have, well, private conversations about grades and things?
2 ways to do that. You can set up times in your meeting room. So you could like set up a schedule and just hopefully that it's honor code that multiple people don't come in. If someone comes in early, you can just send them out. When you click on the bottom of your screen of the participants, you can see everybody in that meeting. So say a student comes in and you don't want them there yet, you can just be like, you can say like, hold on, Jason, I'm just finishing up with Robin right now. And you can remove them or you can ask them to leave. You can also set up that waiting room too. And then they can just be waiting for that meeting for you to let them in. So there's a few different options for that. I just kind of do the like honor system and tell people like come into my meeting at 10 o'clock. If they show up a little early, I just say like, do you mind just leaving right now and coming back in like 5 more minutes?
So you do it more by appointments than just open time.
Yeah, if I'm trying to discuss something private with somebody, but you can also, if you're trying to have larger discussions with people, you can kind of do what the collab does and do like breakout rooms. But
and
yeah,
I
used to
remind people that it's not any different than your real office in some ways, because you can set up a waiting room and you always get to see who's actually in your room with you rather than in the waiting room. So you can just, make sure that if you're going to talk about grades, it's only you and this other person and everybody else is either in the waiting room or coming back at another time. So I don't think there's any more security issues for FERPA and stuff than there is with your regular old office where you meet. I know there's lots of people. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing important about security, because this is going to change. I think it's May 30th or there's a date, is make sure you have the latest version of Zoom. This is very important that you upgrade your version of Zoom and you keep it updated as we go on. And that kind of goes back to what I talked about. I just want to touch on this briefly because it's going to force people to do it and it's going to cause a lot of headache if we don't do it soon. You would download that application of Zoom onto your device. You're going to open that application. So you would just go to your desktop or whatever it may be, open that application of Zoom. I'm going to share my screen real quick so we can do this. And can you all see this window here, my personal meeting ID? You can see that. So yeah, you would go into this upper right corner.
We can't see the Zoom application. Zoom doesn't share the Zoom application.
Oh yeah, we're not seeing that.
Okay. So you would open the Zoom application, you'd go into the upper right corner of your screen, and there's going to be your name or your little icon. You click on that and you're going to scroll down and it's going to say check for upgrades or check for updates, and just click on that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or the help desk. And the reason why I'm just covering this now is because Zoom is changing their encryption policy or changed it and is going to force everybody to the new encryption policy by the end of May. And it's very important that we all as a community, PSU, update it so there's not a lot of headaches going forward. All right, back to questions.
So 2 more questions and then we'll see if we have time. I just want to remind you that drop-in hours are Thursday and Friday, 8:30 to 5. Travis will be around for a lot of that. Those are virtual in the collab. So he doesn't go away after this session. Next, let's have Dennis.
Yes, I have a feeling I've been using the wrong methodology to enable my students to get my recordings. After a class, I would get a Zoom email with the link, and I was basically sending the class the link by announcement. I have a feeling Kaltura is the best way for students to access recordings. I've never used Kaltura, so I don't know how that works. So how do students access recordings?
Yeah, so the link that you're sending out is you will receive an email from Zoom when you do a cloud-based recording. That will say your recording is now ready. All that means is your recording is in that Zoom app, is in the Zoom cloud, which is stored for 14 days. Kaltura doesn't send out that email. To access Kaltura, I don't know if there's a workshop on that later today, Robin.
There is not. Give us a 1-minute workshop right now.
All right, 1-minute workshop real quick. Let's share screen. This is important for all of you.
This really is important.
All right, so you're gonna go to My Plymouth. You're gonna go to My Courses again. You're gonna go to Kaltura. You're gonna click on Kaltura. You're gonna come to this login page. You're gonna log in. And this is gonna bring you to My Media. So I'm gonna click on My Media here. internet. And this is, it's going to come right here. Your Zoom recording, if you do it when you record to the cloud, it's going to magically show up here. The academic tech team did a fantastic job of integrating this. And your meeting is just going to, that you did a recording of a webinar or meeting is just going to show up here. It's going to, yeah, go ahead.
Now students can do this also, so I don't have to send them the link?
No, this is just in your Kaltura page.
How do students get my recording?
So you would click on the recording.
No, actually, the best way to do it, I put a link into the chat box, but otherwise you can add a Kaltura resource into your Moodle class. That's the best way it would be disseminated to your students for that class, is to add that link to the video to your class.
But basically what you're doing is you're going to get the link for the video in your Kaltura library there, and then you have a range of ways to send that link out just like you would with any video, like a YouTube video or anything else. So you can automatically put that into your Moodle because those Kaltura and Moodle talk to each other, or you can just take the link and send that out in another place. But just remember, as Travis mentioned, there's two different links. There's your Zoom recording link and your Kaltura recording link, and you really want your Kaltura one. Once you get to that library, you can probably figure out how to get that sent out, but if you can't,
so
that can help you.
I'm sharing my screen right now. If I want to add something that's in my Kaltura library to my class, I can click on Add Activity or Resource, and then go down to Kaltura Video Resource. And then it will bring up my Kaltura video library, and then I can embed that video into my Kaltura class, into my Moodle class. So then once it's in there, all they do is click on it right there, and they can watch it within the Moodle classroom right there.
And can that be set up to automatically do that for the class? Every time I finish a class, it automatically becomes available as a recording?
Unfortunately, we can't have that automatically done. You have to add the recording to your class.
So I might as well just send them the Zoom link. That works.
No,
Well,
don't send them the Zoom link, because the Zoom link will delete after 14 days.
Yes, it does that. I understand that. That is a different situation, but it will give them the 14 days. That's what I did this semester. Okay, well, I'll probably figure that out, and I'll come on Friday with more questions.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
We can help you, so it's really not that hard of a process. Let's just take one last really quick 2-minute question from Roxana. I'm sorry that some of you won't get your questions answered, but we will get them another time.
Okay, so I think in Moodle there is a way to add a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
But when I tried to do it, I couldn't figure out how to do it. So can you show us real quick?
So you can do it through Moodle. There's a few ways to make Zoom meetings. You can do it through Moodle. You can do it through your Outlook if your Outlook is linked. You can do it through the application. I recommend, and Jason can chime in on this too, I recommend doing it through going through the My Plymouth portal and making your meetings there. And that's just my thing. And then sharing that link that you've created that we did all those steps in your Moodle page, or sending it out to students differently. Jason, do you have a quick?
Yeah, that's what I would recommend doing that. I'm going to share my screen real fast, because there is, I think someone asked this earlier too, about doing the Zoom activity in. You could make a Zoom meeting through here, through adding activity, or through any added activity or resource. The problem, we run into an issue where students can't connect to it sometimes. And so what we do recommend is create the Zoom link, the Zoom meeting through the Zoom page on your web browser, and just copy that link and then add that as a URL in your Moodle classroom. And so then you would just add URL, put the Zoom meeting link here, and just say, class meeting.
So what I have been doing, I use the external link so that it doesn't show the actual sort of link to the Zoom, because I was afraid for Zoom bombers and whatever. So then the students just kind of click on an external link and they go straight there.
Yep, and that's really what we do recommend. Like I said, we did talk about using the Zoom activity at the beginning of the when we first transitioned to remote. The problem is like there's a programming error that we can't fix that runs into where students can't access the meeting from here. And so we just advise that create the Zoom link in your Zoom profile page and just add as an external URL here.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. So it wasn't me for once.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually other folks in the last session were even talking about how that Moodle integrated one is sometimes quirky, so better to do it how Jason showed you.
It's just, yeah.
I just want to say, I know that what we all need is about an 8-hour tutorial on Zoom if we're really going to continue doing this kind of remote learning. So remember, Travis works all summer. We do have some drop-in hours Thursday and Friday in the collab.
And we also, just a quick thing, just like Jason mentioned before, as he has drop-in hours throughout the week, we also have drop-in hours for Zoom support throughout every week going forward. When just look for those emails that come out from our academic tech team and our IT team.
Do not delete those IT emails because you need them now.
Yeah, and we're happy. And if you want to set something up, you can reach out to the help desk. You can reach out to us, and happy to do a lot of one-on-one or group. If you have a whole department that wants to work on a certain feature, happy to do that as well.
I'm going to stop recording.